Welcome to the Period Besties Podcast with Stasha and Katie. Think about it as chatting with your best friends about all the TMI stuff you've never talked about before with two period coaches who've been helping hormones collectively for over 20 years now. I'm Stasha.
And I'm Katie, and we're pulling back the curtain on what it's like in the world of menstrual coaching. From puberty to menopause and everything in between, we're here to show you how period coaching can save the day. We'll share practical tips and information you can put to immediate use to improve your hormones and happiness.
We're removing the mystery, ending the taboo, and shining a light on just how powerful period coaching can be.
So whether you need period coaching or are considering becoming a period coach yourself, these episodes are going to help you. We'll share stories, coach live on air, and bring smart, savvy guests to share their wisdom too. Let's start today's episode.
Welcome back to Period Besties Podcast. Today we are tackling ovulation in flow. And this is our last of the 4 phases that we're going to chat through and how it can be applied to business. And of course, to chat about Bloody Brilliant Business, the book that just came out. And one of the things that we've been talking about in this series is problem solving, chapter 8, and how we can use all of these phases to solve problems, which obviously in business, but also in life, right? Relationships, life, works, things like that. Problems come up and they need solved and how to use it for problem solving. But the ovulation phases, it is a fun one. It's often the peak energy, peak extroverting, all that good stuff. And the stripper study, the famous stripper study, who they followed strippers around and found that they made the most during ovulation. So I read that a long time ago and thought, that's when you do sales. If that's when you make the most money, then that's when you do your sales calls. That might have been the first thing business inflow wise that I was like, oh, we're going to do this.
I remember reading about that study too, and it was fascinating to me. I was like, that makes so much sense. And it's not even just, it's so animalistic, right? Because it's smell, it's like how you look at somebody, the pheromones, like all of those things. It's so fascinating because we think we're so advanced, right? It's 2025. We're so advanced. And then you look at all these studies, you're like, oh my God, no, it's like back to the basics between what is actually happening in our bodies. It's so fascinating. I remember reading that. I actually had to read it a few times because I was like, wait a second. And then I had more questions and I went back and, oh, okay. And then I read it again. And I'm like, no, yes, this makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. And that to me clicked. Like that was, I think, one of the first things that made me go, wait, if I'm following my hormones and the strength of those hormones, then I can use that to make my business run more efficiently. And I can increase my productivity so that I can have that week off that I need. And it was one of those like dominoes that just fell into place and went, oh, okay, what else can we do? What else can we learn? It was that and progesterone helping visuals. It was those 2 bookends that really just went, okay, if there's this, then what else is there? Oh, okay, now we can definitely figure everything else out, right? So it was certainly a good one. And ovulation, even though it's such a short phase, it's a real punchy phase. And I found a lot of myself, my clients included, would often just knock out a long day at work and not feel exhausted, feel really accomplished. Oh my gosh, look at how much I got done today. The trick is to not get post-ovulatory and then start berating yourself for not being able to work those same hours, to be as productive, to have as much like on the nose, immediate success, right? So it's a bit of that mindset, which we're going to do an episode on mindset in the cycle. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I really found it so interesting how that ovulatory phase could really be harnessed, even though it's short, for so much in business and sales calls, sales pages, but networking events. Like you were talking about corporate networking events and going to those corporate events that you have to go to. And if they're on your ovulation phase, that's really when you want to go like with an agenda, right? you may have to go in menstrual, and maybe you just go and have some conversations and chat and just go with the flow. But when you're in ovulation and you have those kinds of events, like, what's your goal? What do you want to get out of this? Who do you want to meet? Who do you want to talk to? Is there something are you looking for sponsorships? Are you looking for income? Are you looking for an affiliate partner? Are you looking for a joint venture partner? Are you looking for a board member? What's the agenda? I went to a Planned Parenthood breakfast as a sponsor last year, and I was just starting to think about the nonprofit. And when I went, I was like, I want to talk to the board members. I want to just talk to them. Just, hey, I'm starting a nonprofit. I don't really know anything about setting up a board. Do you have a tip? So I went and talked to several of the board members and was just like, hey, what do you think? And they were like, they all had different ideas and opinions. It was really fascinating. It was just the very first experience. So for me, it was just everything was information. I wasn't trying to do anything specific. I just wanted to go information gather. What is the agenda? I think is a really good thing when you're doing those interactive stuff in ovulation. But then, of course, are you doing a webinar? Are you doing a free class? Are you doing some live streams? Just hopping on and chatting live about something, right? Really use that extroverted energy. And social media, as much as Katie and I are both, social media can be advantageous. And a lot of it rewards you for being on for a long time. Like, I know TikTok was like, do your first hour-long live, go for it. Really try and do a longer live. And so I just waited for an ovulation phase and was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do a nice, like, I'll just chat about menstrual cycles. I could go for days, like, not a problem. So sometimes, especially if you're using social media as part of your strategy, it's a nice way of just getting some algorithm boosting with that ovulation phase. So it's a really powerful phase to use for business for sure.
Yeah. I also, if you don't own your own business, asking for a raise is best when you're in the ovulation phase. Again, going back to that stripper study, right? It's just the energy, the pheromones, like you just are glowing, even if you don't feel that way. It's just that energy that you give off. It's really interesting. I always tell my clients, if you're going to go jean shopping, this is the best time to go jean shopping or any type of shopping, because you will like things. You will like the way they feel on your body. And then again, in your deep luteal, just know that you're just in deep luteal and you're probably a little bit more bloated because the progesterone, all of that. But I think of that too, because I hate shopping, but then I never have anything I want to wear. So I get annoyed and I'm like, Katie, that means you have to go shopping. So I try to plan, even online shopping, I try to do that more when I'm in this phase, because I'm like, oh, I can see how that would fit good on my body or whatever, or I like this. And in business, for me, I feel like I've got it in ovulation. I'm always just, okay, this is going well. And I like to write myself little notes like for a week and a half later on my calendar. I've been doing this since the beginning of the year because I'm like, just remember you felt this way when you were in ovulation. Don't forget this when you are in this other phase, because I feel like every time I'm on here, I'm like, I'm so tired. But I've noticed a huge shift in my energy. And we had this awesome conversation yesterday. I cannot wait for everyone to listen to the human design podcast we recorded. But it made so much sense to me because I think that I'm not preserving my energy correctly if I'm still so tired. So I don't know. I don't have a resolution to that, but I know in ovulation, everything clicks for me. So I'm just trying to like harness that memory.
I love that idea. I'm going to start doing that too, because that's such a great idea. And yeah, when you hit that deep luteal phase and you feel like the sky is falling, having that past me note could be really.
Yes.
Like, I have the whiteboard that just says, make things I'm proud of, enjoy making things. The rest is data. Damn the man saved the empire for our Empire Records fans.
Like I love, do you know they filmed that in Wilmington?
Did they?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when you come visit, we will do a tour, because one of my all-time favorite movies ever.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But yeah, I have that sign, and a lot of times in deep luteal, I'm like, just make the things that you want to make. Write the book, whatever it is, just do it, whether it's a success out of the gate or not. it will be helpful out there in the world. And it's what I've wanted to write books since I was a little kid. I've always wanted to. My high school, like young high school, like ninth, 10th grade high school boyfriend who did a lot of writing as well, when I was Kickstarter for The Revolution Will Be Bloody, reached out, backed it with $200 or $500 for no reward. And it was just like, I thought of the two of us, one of us would absolutely write a book. I hoped it would be me first, but well done.
That I love that. Oh my God.
I wanted to write a book, and like people knew about it and remembered it 20
Yeah.
years later. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep writing books. Even if books aren't where you make money necessarily, you really have to be like Stephen King to make money off of books. You have to sell a lot. But it is something that I've just always wanted to do, right? That's where it's like in ovulation, I'm like, yeah, next book, next project, we're going to do it, knock it out. And then I get into deep luteal and I'm like, why am I wasting my time on this thing? There's no point to it. It's not going to make any money. It's just a waste. So having that sign up there keeps my sanity in deep luteal. But I love the idea of writing myself an ovulation encouragement note, making that like a monthly ovulation ritual.
Yeah.
Something that I do every ovulatory phase, and then keeping it, post it on the desktop or something for my poor deep luteal.
Yeah. When my husband and I first started dating, I would have all these post-it notes all over the bathroom mirror. You've got this. You're doing well. Don't talk mean to yourself. All these things. I need to bring those back because I feel like as a business owner and or just somebody just trying to thrive in the world these days, just reminding yourself of all the things that you enjoy, that you feel like you're good at, that you're thriving in, because no matter what, any client I've ever worked with, the few days before their period does not remember how they were feeling prior to that. Like it just all goes away. And I think it's really important for all of us to remember who we really are without the hormones. We have hormones every day, like the deep luteal.
Yeah, with that particular hormone setup.
Yes.
I think that's such a great idea. I do love ovulation in our problem solving circle. We talked about the what phase in luteal, what's working, what's not working, what's problematic, what could be better, what could be more fun. And we talked about the why in the menstrual phase. Why do you feel this way? Why are you doing this? Why is it good for you? Why is it good for your clients? That kind of thing. Why do your clients need you specifically? Follicular, how are you going to solve the problem? How are you going to make the problem easier or more fun, or delegate or eliminate or automate the problem? And then ovulation is the do. Sometimes if the problem is simply a tech problem, follicular is a great phase to just knock it out. But if it's a conversation problem, like I have to talk to somebody. So in Bloody Brilliant Business, the problem is a client who's not necessarily showing up, or they're showing up late, or they're no call, no showing. So this is where you're going to have that conversation when you're in ovulation and you feel really positive and ramped up, like we can find a solution together. And also where you're not in that dire straits and let's just cancel and call it off, right? Like where you're just in that slash and burn phase of the cycle, but rather having that conversation when you're really in that optimistic place where you're like, let's find a solution, let's talk it through, where you can have that conversation. In The Revolution Will Be Bloody, it's the dirty socks principle, and it's having a partner who just won't pick up their dirty socks. Same thing though, you write in follicular, you're like, how are we going to have this conversation? And then in ovulation, you have the conversation. So it's really a great place where if you are having those problem solving things, it's a good time to do it. One of the things in a client who had a coffee shop, which we talked about briefly in a previous episode, but she had a real high turnover rate, and she was having a really hard time keeping employees, which partially it's a coffee shop. That's an interim job as you're doing other things. But they were really, it was like everyone, it was a constant turnover. And so one of the things we did is that instead of having her doing the employee evaluations and hiring and things like that, those conversations with them whenever, which a lot of times it was in that luteal phase because she was noticing a lot of problems. And then she would be like, we need to sit down and talk about this stuff. And it would be in a not good part of her cycle. And so it wasn't a productive conversation. So I had her switch those things around so that she was scheduling the employee performance reviews or those kinds of conversations for when she was in follicular ovulation phase. And she had cut that after doing that, she had clients years, or not clients, she had employees years later. So we did this for the year we worked together. And 5 years later, I saw on Instagram she was celebrating one of her employees' 5th anniversaries and having his band play at the coffee shop to celebrate. That was the one employee, right? That was the first employee that she had hired while we were working together, where we did the different setup of when you were going to hire people and when you were going to have those employee conversations. And this employee was one of those people she hired while we were using this new system for her business. And 5 years later, that employee was still there, whereas no other employee had ever made it a year. So
Oh, that's so amazing. That's so cool. I
yeah,
love that. Yeah.
doable. It's actually a functional, like brick and mortar coffee shop business. And it works really well in online business or right. And like you said, if you want a promotion, if you want to raise, this is the time to have those conversations. So even in a corporate environment, it can really be an asset to building your standing in the business or starting your own business, that kind of thing. Yeah,
I would
it's
say too, like in any relationship, like last night, my husband was trying to have a conversation with me about, for whatever reason, if I plug in my, oh my God, my heater, my portable space heater, thank you. Whenever I plug that in, if I can't turn any other things on, like I can't turn the hair dryer on. He was talking about having the electrician come out and he kept going. And I was like, listen, I cannot have this conversation right now. And he couldn't stop. He's okay. And then a minute later, he's like, but I just want to share this. And I was like, I will not remember anything that you're trying to tell me right now. We cannot have this conversation right now. And he was looking at me like I had 5 heads. And I was like, no, I'm serious. I really cannot have this conversation. I'm tired. My cycle's been a little bit all over the place. I'm still feeling like, because he was gone for 10 days. I'm like, we cannot have this conversation. And it was just funny because then finally I'll just figure it out. I'm like, perfect.
Well
Great idea. Go do it. But I noticed that I have 2 boys, my husband, the dog is a girl, but there's a lot of masculine energy in my house, even at 4, all the testosterone. It's interesting trying to have boundaries with energy and where I am in my cycle because I'm like, I just can't have this conversation. I cannot problem solve right now. Versus when I'm in ovulation, I'm like, okay, I have all these things I need to solve and I have the energy and desire. And I think that's the key too, is I actually want to do it. So I feel like every day I open my calendar, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I got to move this still because this can't happen today. Like I move things that aren't time sensitive all the time when I have a little bit more bandwidth to feel that desire to want to do it. I'm talking more like personal stuff, like figuring out camp for the kids this summer, stuff like that. But even in business, right? If I'm like, oh, I need to really write a newsletter, but my brain's not working, I'm like, let myself off the hook now.
yeah.
Versus I was pushing as I was building my business for a long time. And now I'm like, okay, it's not going to resonate when I send this out anyways, if I'm not in it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's spot on. We talked about it before how we have decision fatigue by the day, but you have longer or more capable amount of decision making in ovulation, right? You
Mhm.
can make more decisions and confident decisions in ovulation. You just don't have as many decisions per day in that like deep
Oh
luteal
God, no.
phase that you have in ovulation. So yeah, of course you have to make decisions in luteal, but maybe, like you said, reserve those for the time sensitive things and the things that aren't, just bump down the list to later, to 2 weeks from now, say.
My problem is I keep bumping them and I'm like, "Ah, I just still don't want to do this. And then I just delete it. I'm like, then this doesn't need to get done. If I really, when I get back to ovulation, if I'm like, yeah, I still don't want to do this, like I just
And eliminate.
maybe I won't send them to camp for the whole month of June. I'll just figure something else out. I just make that decision too in ovulation when I'm really clear on what I want, and not even what I want, how I actually want to feel is a better way to describe that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason eliminate is one of the options, right? Eliminate,
Yes.
delegate, automate. So I know, and that's part of that mindset though, is we think if I eliminate this thing, I failed,
Mm-hmm.
right? I didn't do it. So therefore I have failed. And that's not, you as a business owner are going to have to eliminate a lot of things. A lot of things are going to go, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's not for me.
Yeah.
You have to eliminate like 75% of the things that you pop into your brain as a business owner, because you see things, even if you're not a really creative person, when you own a business, other people doing things and you think, oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do that. Oh, I should try that. Even if you don't think of yourself as a creative force, you're still in business. Oh, I should have that spreadsheet for this thing, or I should do that, or I should hire this person. And a lot of the times it's not for you. Your business is unique to you. And there are things that absolutely overlap. Everyone needs to track their money somehow. But how
Yeah. We all have to pay taxes.
Right. But how you're going to choose to do that is up to you. And that's where you're going to have to eliminate 99% of the things to pick the one that works for you. So we have to get over that kind of failure mindset that goes along with.
I feel like it's interesting, right? Because I feel like comparison is a thief of joy. We know that. Yet we spend so much time as a business, especially when you're starting out, looking at what everyone else is doing. And then after a while, you get comfortable kind of in your lane and what you're doing. And then you randomly will look at something and you're like, should I be doing that?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I have to go back to, do I really want to do that? And most of the time it's no. But I feel comfortable with that decision in the first phase of my cycle. In the second phase, like, should I not? And I just write it down, but then coming back to it in this phase and like, how do I actually want to feel? Sometimes it's a good idea, but most of the time, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's, I think, part of the beauty of the ovulation phase is being able to bring those things that you're like, I'm unsure of what I want to do or how I want to do it or any of that stuff. And you can work it through the problem solving cycle, coming to ovulation, and make that final decision, make that executive decision, whether you're going to keep it, do it, eliminate it, whatever it is. But you can make that decision in that phase. And it feels a lot clearer and more confident, so that when you come back around, you're not second guessing yourself as much.
100%. Yeah. So I thought this whole series was so fascinating for me as like a refresher of just talking it out, right? Because I feel like sometimes even myself, I know this and I try to work my business with this, but it's still a good reminder of being like, oh yeah, yes, delete, move on. So I hope everyone listening, it's really resonated with you. We'd love to hear from you. And Stasha, you need to tell everybody where they can get your book.
Yeah, link is in the show notes, but you can always go to periodcoachingschool.com. Bloody Brilliant Business is a tab now. That was me. I did that.
Nice.
Get the book there. There's a digital and print version. I definitely see a lot of print versions going to be dog-eared, highlighted, tabbed. I hope that you use the book. Really use it, mark it up, make it yours. It's step by step, it's phase by phase. So use it. And then there's a bonus page that comes along when you buy the book where you get spreadsheets and templates and links. And there's so much on that bonus page that really the bonus page is worth the price of the book on its own. But then you get both.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's a good bonus page and probably something that I'll evolve as well as new things come out. And so keep the bonus page, like bookmark the bonus page, because new things will come up, new ideas will come up, new templates, new things that I'll want to pop on there for everybody. So bookmark your bonus page as well.
Yes. And I learned yesterday that Stasha is a generator. So she's not kidding when she says that she will be putting more things up there, because that is how her brain works.
Yeah.
Everything new and sparkly and gold will be up there.
Amazing. Thanks everyone for listening. Questions, comments, feel free to email, slide into our DMs. We want to hear from you. If you have questions we want to know, we'll answer them in podcast episodes. We'll shoot you replies back. We are here to help. We want to see more women making more money. Tell us what you need in order to get out there and make more money. We want to make sure that everyone is more money for more women. It just improves everything around the world substantially. So whatever we can do to help, we want to do that so that we can have a better world. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
A big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Period Coaching School and Katie Bresek Wellness.
Thanks to you, our favorite bestie, for listening to the Period Besties Podcast, where no topic is TMI. And of course, share this episode with your besties.
Remember to leave us a 5-star review, nothing less than the best for us besties, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stasha Washburn and at Katie Bresek, or email us at periodbestiespodcast@gmail.com.
Check out more about us at katiebresek.com and periodcoachingschool.com. And of course, check the show notes for free goodies and extras that support this episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now, besties.